Let us start the class by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right, page number 245.
Bhante, excuse me, can I ask a question, Bhante?
Yes.
Yeah, page 244, the last paragraph, or the one before the last one, it says, eye and ear as not reaching their objects. So the eye need lights and the ear needs sound. And nose, tongue, and body as reaching their objects. That is a bit confusing, Bhante. What does it mean? Does it, I mean, it is direct or what? What does it mean, Bhante? Not as reaching their objects. What do you mean by that and not reaching?
As reaching their objects, eye and ear.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at something or when you hear something, what you hear, for example, with the ear is a vibrational frequency.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, for example, Anoma, now you're speaking. Now, what we are hearing is the words that, of course, that are produced by the movement of your tongue and mouth.
Mm-hmm.
This is reflected or this is manifested through air, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating that frequency, and that is absorbed by, or rather sort of, the sensitivity of the ear picks that vibration.
Yeah.
When you're eating something, however, when you're eating something, we say that we reach the object by way of you eat what, or the taste is felt or experienced rather through the chewing of whatever object or nutrition or whatever it is that you're putting into the mouth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? By that we say that the eye and the ear, right? Eye and the ear as not reaching their object, but the nose, tongue, and body as reaching the object. Because you feel the object through the experience of it directly.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Whereas the eye, it is the light. The ear, it is a vibrational frequency. Right?
Okay, Bhante.
The vibrational frequency.
Okay, Bhante. Thank you very much. Now it's clear. Thank you, Bhante.
Right? But then one would imagine, okay, what about the nose? Right? What about the nose? Right? If you're smelling a cupcake, for example, the cupcake doesn't, go
come in. Yeah. Yes.
However funny that might be, the cupcake doesn't go inside your nose.
Yeah,
what happens is, then what we must look at is, okay, the eye, the sound, the vibrational frequency or light is different to smell. How is it different? The smell is not just carried by the air. Yes, the air is the way by which the smell comes to you. But it is the chemicals or whatever that we would call it, that is what is felt by the nose. If you take the sound vibrates through the air. It is a vibration, a frequency, right? A frequency is then different to something which is smell, right? The eye is a reflection caused by the
light.
Reflection caused by the light.
Yeah.
Do you see the difference there?
Yes, Bhante. Yeah.
Right. So with regards the nose, the tongue, and the body, you experience those particles in order to get to know the object. The eye and the ear only feel the vibration or light respectively.
So eye and ear through something, through the light and through the vibration. Yeah.
It is different by way of, it is not carrying anything. It is a vibration. The light has its own way of operation, right? Whereas a smell carries a particle. That particle is what that brings whatever smell, right? That is why the eye and the ear do not feel the object or reach the object, and the others are reached by the object.
Okay, Bhante, thank you very much. It's clear now.
Thank you. Right. Any more questions? Yes, Padma.
This is going right back, Bhante. I'm sorry, I wasn't there for these classes. It's page 238. And in that one, where you speak about the fire element, there it says there's a continuous supply of softness. Now, I couldn't understand how the fire could have a continuous supply of softness, that Tejo Dhatu.
The Tejo Dhatu has a characteristic of heat. Its function is to mature, ripen other material phenomena, and it is manifested as a continuous supply of softness. Both heat and cold are modes in which the fire element is experienced, right? The softness here, right? The softness here relates to the quality that allows fire to be carried, or temperature to be carried, right? Now, for example, if we would take molecules, right? And then we remember how one molecule affects the other molecule, right? How it sort of, in a way, not vibrates, but in a way sort of spreading its nature and affecting the other molecules around it, right? That is what is referred to as the softness here.
Okay.
Right? That is what is referred to as a softness here. That quality of fire which enables, even with regards to, now when we say the expansion and contraction of something, when the fire or the nature of temperature is present, right? Ice contracts, heat expands. Yeah. That nature. Do you understand that?
All right. Thank you.
That is what is referred to as the softness here.
Right.
Right? Which allows that spread to happen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Can I ask another question? Or am I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
No, you in the last one, you mentioned something about Tanha-based rebirth as in Pretas. Now, I thought always rebirth is based on Tanha and Avijja. And are there any non-Tanha-based rebirths in the Devas and all that?
Yes.
Now, I got a bit worried, confused by that.
Yeah. The question here is, yes, Tanha is an element of consciousness. In getting rid of Tanha is where a being is then able to escape samsara.
Yes.
Right? However, in the last class, the question is this then. What becomes the predominant factor? According to the consciousness energy, which becomes the predominant factor, now the rebirth is determined. The attachment of being, bhavatanha, is different from the craving that we would refer to. Example, I want to taste something right now. Okay. That tanha is different to bhavatanha. Okay. The need of becoming, the need of being. The tanha spoken of in the Paticcasamuppada relates to what enables this process of continuous arising and passing to go on, right? That element of tanha is referred to avidya and tanha.
Yes.
That is an element, a core mechanic of the mind, right? However, now whether you go to the heavenly realms, whether you go to the hellish realms, whether you become a peta, a pisacha, or an animal, or a human, or whatever it is dependent upon the fact of what becomes in Pali adipati.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Right? What becomes the predominant factor? Tanha will always be there.
Okay, thank you. Right. Right. Thank you.
Okay, that is clear. Any yes, no, any?
Bhante, are we having the class next Monday?
Is there any reason we shouldn't?
Bank holiday?
Okay. I mean, we can cancel if you want to. But a bank holiday, I mean, in Sri Lanka, it's every day is a holiday now. So whatever you like. Is it a long weekend? It's
a long weekend.
Yeah, we can cancel and have it if you all are going out. That's fine. Okay. Okay, moving on. Now, shall we come to the page then? 245. Okay. Guide to para 7. Internal. Ajattika. Here, the term internal is used in relation to matter in a technical sense, applicable only to the 5 types of sensitive materiality, which serve as the doors for the mental phenomena, Although other types of material phenomena occur within the body, only these 5 sensitive factors are referred to as internal. Right? Internal. Is that understood? Is it understood why these are internal? I think we discussed this last week, isn't it? Yeah, did we? Yeah, can someone then explain why it is called internal with regards to the sensitive materiality? Hemamali, would you like to give it a go? No. Chamari?
Bhante?
Yes, Chamari.
Is it because that these are the doors within which we experience the world? There is no other way of experiencing the world.
Okay, how can it be more internal then?
So without the pasada rupa or the sensitive materiality, the chitta can't arise.
Yes, the objects that give rise to. What if you put it in this way? The world as we know it, my world, right?
Yeah.
The way, for example, the way that I would see Sri Lanka is a creation of the way I perceive Sri Lanka and what is going on in Sri Lanka, or the state in which Sri Lanka is, right? Or the environment around me is created by the perceptions, or the way that I perceive it is what gives me an idea of the environment that I live in. Everything that we create as in the world, right, is then a manifestation of those that we receive or perceive through these ajattika rupas, the basics. right? So if we would take, let's take the ego of caste. The ego of caste. The ego of caste is, as we know, is the way that we perceive it. Now, for example, let's take a caste in Sri Lanka. Let's take Radhala, for example. Now we know, if you mention, all these in the marriage proposals, if you put can be Govigama Buddhist, right? KGB, right? You stand to sort of, be sort of seen as, in that kind of a way among some people. Now we would see, if we would take it in a way that, this is the highest caste. But if we would take it in a political way, in connection to history and all of that, the Radhalas are, responsible for most of the mishaps in the country politically, for giving up the country, for really, in a way, sabotaging the country, for selling the country. If you would take that, now see perception. Right? In the way that the perception is applied is the world that we would create. The person who would see caste in the earlier light, this is the highest thing, would have that sense of mana. The person who would take it in that political light, taking the history into account, would take it in a way of feeling ashamed of it. So that world is then manifested through behavior. So this person that we cling on to as I is a manifestation of the way we have perceived through the bases. Hence Adhyattika.
Yeah, so the sound has to come through the ear, and you hear these things, and then the mind will reproduce these things. So you think about it and have a view, ditthis. And so without these 6 bases, you can't experience anything. You can't experience anything.
You can't be the I that we want to be. So the I that we have created individually, each and every one of us have done so through the employment of these Adhyattika Rupas. Hence, it is called Adhyattika. Is that clear and understood? Yes, Dhamsiri.
I think Mano Vinyan is not included in here. So it's only the 5 sensory organs are included.
Yes.
So it's in other words, it's you perceive the materiality through these doors, right?
Yes, whatever data that accumulates is accumulated because of these doors.
That's right, yes.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So,
but Bhante?
Yes, Chamari.
So it just says, completes the sentence. So the 5 types of sensitive materiality which serve as the doors for the mental phenomena.
Mental phenomena.
So that is how it becomes the 6th one.
For the mental, however, the 6th one is not included here because it is focusing on the doors that receive that data for the mental phenomena.
Right.
So it is just the Patika Sampassaya rather than the, okay, all right, okay.
Which creates, which allows, which gathers, which gives us the information, the data required for the Manovinyana. However, the Manovinyana, we gain that data, but we gain it through these 5. That's why it's Adhyattika.
Yeah, okay, understand.
Okay, did everyone else get it as well? Okay. Then we have bases, page number 200 and 200 and...
It's on page 144, the bases.
It's in 144.
144, okay. 140.
And that is the number 3, and there's 20 analysis of bases.
140.
I checked it out earlier.
All right, 144. Analysis of bases. In the summary, are we there?
Yes.
Okay. In the summary of bases, there are 6 bases, namely eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and heart base. All these 2 are found in the sense world, but in the fine material world, 3 bases, nose, tongue, and body, are not found. In the immaterial world, no bases exists. Guide to para 20, analysis of bases. In those planes of existence where materiality obtains, chitta and cetasikas arise in dependence on a condition called a base. Chittas and cetasikas arise in dependence on a condition called a base. A base is a physical support for the occurrence of consciousness. Although the first 5 bases coincide with the first 5 doors, namely the sensitive matter of the 5 sense faculties, a base is not identical with a door, since it plays a different role in the origination of consciousness. A door is a channel through which the chittas and cetasikas of a cognitive process gain access to an object, to the object. A base is the physical support for the occurrence of the chittas and the cetasikas. Right? A base is the physical support for the occurrence of the chittas and cetasikas. This difference in functions implies important consequences. In an I-do process, many types of chittas, apart from I consciousness, occur with I sensitivity as their do. But I sensitivity is a base solely of I consciousness. Right? I sensitivity is the base solely of the I consciousness. Not of the other chittas that utilize the I-do. In relation to the doors, the various chittas that function, as rebirth linking, bhavanga, and death are considered door freed. They do not depend on a door to arise. Is that clear? They do not depend on a door to arise. I mean, how could it? If they did depend on a door, does that mean what if a person doesn't have a specific door? Right? It is wholly operational on the mind element, right? The mind element. That is as occurring without any door. But in planes of existence, which include both mind and matter, no chittas occur without a base. No chittas occur without a base. Even if it is not the 5 connected to the sensory perception, the heart base is the base of, or the seat of mind, it is also called, by which the mind arises dependent or based or supported by the physical support of the mind. Do we understand? Is that clear? That difference, right? The difference between then a door and a base, right? The base is the physical support, not the base is a physical support. The door is the means through which the data is received. Two different things, right? If we would take, now let's take, if it is, you know, a round like this, right? Let's take if it's the eye, right? Because there is something of this sort in the eye, the reflection, if we remember, you know, the reflection falls on the back because of this allowance, this support, being there's a place for the light to fall, right? The door is the way by which the light enters or this information is gathered. But the base doesn't do anything, but only acts as a physical support for this function to occur, right? Acts as the physical function for this to occur. Do we understand? Right? If we would take, for example, if we would take the a door, a physical door, a door to your room or a door to your hall or whatever, door to your house or whatnot. We have the door, the wood or, you know, whatever it is that the door is made of. And then this door, for it to be operational, to act as the door we want it to be, it has a support. The support is the frame and the hinges, right? Now the hinges is not what lets the person in or anything of the sort, but the hinges are the support through which the door remains or is able to perform the function that the door is supposed to perform, which is opening and closing, right? The opening and closing. That opening and closing is possible because of the frame and hinges. But the frame and hinges does not move. Is that clear? Right? Yes.
Bhante, rebirth linking can't produce matter because it has got a weak base, or it hasn't got a base.
A rebirth linking cannot produce matter because the function of it is not to create matter. The function of the rebirth linking is to link one birth with the other. Its performance now, the rebirth linking process is what significantly symbolifies the ending of one birth and the entering to the next, right? That is what the function of the rebirth linking is, the linking of these births, right? When this function is performed, then the other functions come into play to create the Kammaja Rupas and whatever it is that arises afterwards. The rebirth linking's function is to end or break cheda between one life and the beginning of the other. Dependent upon the power of the rebirth linking, it connects to a suitable place. Suitable determined by what? The energy of the rebirth linking. Is that clear? The functions are different. Right? The functions are different. Yes, Damsiri.
Yeah, shall I? We have good vibration. Oh, okay. What we it's a disturbance.
You can just
okay.
Yeah.
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 Okay. What we have, so the consciousness is function of consciousness is not to produce Rupa, but to produce rebirth linking consciousness. So there's a Rupa actually with the rebirth linking, but it is produced by karmaja, another karma or similar karma. So the rebirth linking consciousness, the function is to create the consciousness, but not to create any rupas, right? That rupa is sort of instantaneously produced due to another karma or same karma, but it's not instigated by the consciousness, right? It's karmaja rupa. So the first three rupas you get in the rebirth, which is first three. One is Vastu Rupa, Bhava Rupa, and what the other one? Vastu, Bhava, and Kaya. Those three rupas in the rebirth linking actually created by a karma, but not by the consciousness. Yeah.
Yes. In the process of rebirth now, if we say the function of consciousness is to create rebirth linking, not all consciousnesses perform the function of rebirth linking, only 19 do.
Yeah, that we understand.
What that 19 then does is the creating what we spoke of, breaking of one, creating of the other, dependent upon the energy. The first rupa that arises after the birth takes place is always a kammaja rupa, owing to the fact of there is an effect of the consciousness energy, but it is not consciousness which creates that kammaja rupa. Now, for example, if we are born into, let's say, into an animal, fetus, our karmic energy takes us there, right? We are not going to be reborn as a human inside an animal, no, right? The karmic energy brought by the consciousness, made allowable through the process of rebirth linking, sets the stage, sets the potential for now the kammaja rupa to arise. The kammaja rupa arises because of a couple of reasons. It is not that within our samsara, we have enough kamma baggage in our samsara to be humans, to be pretas, yakkas, pisachas, animals, ants, birds, lizards, all of these things. We have it already. We have the karmic baggage to be born into all of these situations. However, what is now going to arise is affected by, or rather, this stage is set, the position is set, the conditions are set by the rebirth linking. However, the function of the rebirth linking is not to set it. The function, however, allows for such a thing to arise. Two different things. It is almost as if sometimes we do certain things expecting to be able to do something. Right? Now, for example, if you build a table, right? Now a table has to be elevated from the ground. It has to be just, in line with your chest, right? In that way, we will measure what the perfect sort of height of the table is. The table allows us to now keep a book on it, keep a laptop on it, keep our stuff on it, whatever it is that the table is used for. But when the table is created, when the structure is created, the structure gives potential for something. What does it give potential for? We can have drawers in the table. We can have some other stuff below the table. We can have storage. We can have a bookshelf under the table. But the thing is, the table's function is to work, or rather to have stuff on it. But that is the main function of the table. But the table being there, we are also able to have these cupboards where we can use as storage or whatnot, right? The rebirth linking and the kammaja rupas that arise afterwards is somewhat like the table now, right? The potential is created. The potential is created. Now, if it is a table, let's say it's a working table, we would not have, let's say, a mirror connected to the table in front, right? We would not have, if it's a freestanding table and if it is a work table, we will not be having a mirror in front. We will have a table and we can have something under it. Because if you put a mirror on it, it becomes an almirah, for example. Is it an almirah? Yeah. Right? We have an almirah then, right? It is not a table, right? It's something like that, you see, right? It creates a potential for it in that specific way, but the main cause of it is not for the drawings, but we can have the drawing. Kammaja Rupa is given that potential now through the power of the rebirth linking, but the rebirth linking function is separate. Is that understood, Noel? Is that clear?
Bhante,
yeah.
At conception, what arises is karma-born Rupa.
Yes.
So at the same time, we can't have chitta-born Rupa. That can be another reason.
Chitta-born Rupa only arises after.
Yeah.
Now,
so at the same time, we can't have. Yeah.
Yes, at the same time, we can't have it.
Yeah, that's why we are not having with this, but we are having the karma-born first and then the chitta-born later.
The thing is, the chitta-born at that stage is very, very weak.
Yeah. And
right?
they're coming to a new existence.
Yes. So when the chitta is that weak, it cannot produce without a base. Again, same thing, let's go back. Without a base, the consciousness cannot arise.
Yeah, it hasn't got a base.
It hasn't got a base to arise on. Right? That is why even a fetus, before a child is born, a baby is born, it absorbs so much through the walls of the womb. The baby absorbs so much. So mothers, they put pirit on headphones on the womb, and they put all of these things. They do bells and all. They try to have a clear mind. They try to eat healthy. They all do all of these things, right? They do all of these things, knowing, we know now that the baby absorbs so much, but somehow, 100 years ago, still mothers did good, without all of these sort of science, still mothers gave birth pretty okay, I think. Look at you, you guys turned out okay, right? Without bells and chimes. So that absorption is because the basis for which chitta the rupa arises is very weak, because the consciousness is weak. Right? The basis, without maturing, the physical support, without that physical support not maturing, it is almost impossible, if not difficult, for substantial, that solid forms to be made. A child develops characteristics, personalities more often after these sensors are matured, the bases are matured rather, the bases are matured, which allow solid consciousness formations to arise. Without the bases, it is difficult to grasp arammana by way of we have done arammana. Atimahantarammana, Mahantarammana, all of these types of arammanas, Atimahantarammana can only be grasped when the bases are solid. right? So without, that is why Kammaja Rupa always arises first, because without that, the others can't arise. The others cannot arise because no base, no physical support. Any questions?
So, in other words, Bhante, in other words, when you have a rebirth linking consciousness, simultaneously, you have to actually, practically, the Vastu Rupa should be there. Right? So that's why the first three Rupas, which comes not really after rebirth linking, it's simultaneous, because in order to have a rebirth consciousness, there should be a base for that. So Vastu Rupa is acting as a base for the rebirth consciousness. So it's a sort of a simultaneous action. Yes.
Correct. Absolutely correct, Dhamma. That is why, you know, this sort of discussion of, or rather debate of, you know, when the consciousness truly appears, the commentaries go to say that the consciousness will only appear around 2 weeks after the fertilization process started. Sometimes even up to a month after the fertilization process has started. The physical support, without it being present, the foundation for a consciousness to arise is not there. Up until that stage, the fertilization process itself is what? The Tejo Dhatu within that fertilization process is what seems to maintain the energy which, how can I say, which maintains the embryo, isn't it? The embryo.
Right, yeah.
The embryo. Right?
Bhante, I don't really support that theory.
I remember saying something other than that in one of the talks, Dhamma.
Yeah. Because when you have scientifically, probably doctors will tell that further. As soon as the ovum and sperm united together, so as soon as it united, it knows whether it's a girl or a boy. Yes. Because no, she says no. Because sperm has half of the chromosome, and the ovum has half of the chromosomes, and in the fertilization, these two chromosomes get together, and once that is completed, I know Padma is laughing. When it's completed, then you have a complete chromosome which governs the male or female or gender of the combination.
So, but
right?
If we are talking about the X and Y chromosomes, do we assume that the gender has to be determined after consciousness arises, Dhamsiri?
No, it's simultaneous, because that's why if you consider the three rupas immediate or simultaneously, you get with the Bhava Rupa, Vastu Rupa, and Kaya Rupa. So Bhava Rupa is actually exactly what it determines whether it's a female or male, right? So once you create Bhava Rupa, then you know whether it's female or male. So that's why scientifically, it should be at the time of the fertilization. Padma, what do you say?
No, I can't disagree with Mara either, but What you're saying is correct.
That's because you are a friend of Bala.
My gosh.
Because I
Yeah.
known as Patisandi. Thought sex was at Patisandi. So
Bhante, can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course. Bhante, I misunderstood what Dhamma Center said. When the sperm and the ovum unite, the sex is determined at that stage because the mother has got XX and the father has got XY split. And either you get XX or XY and Bhava Rupa is made at that time. What I meant was to detect whether it's a male or female. It takes about 12 weeks for the people to find out. But at the time of conception, you get either XX or XY. So determined at the time of fertilization.
The only thing that is running through my head now, it doesn't matter what the commentary says. The only thing that is running through my head is this. When we, just because the sex, the X and Y chromosomes would lay the foundation for if it is a male or a female that is born, how could we say that that is a moment that the chitta can arise? Yes, Bhava Rupa arises. However, the foundation can be present without a consciousness also. Because why can't it, Damsiri? Because now the karma, now let's say in my next birth, I had the karma to be born, let's say, as a female, right? My karma is such that I will be born as a female. If the X and the foundation for that sort of development is there, just as if I am to be born, let's say, a fly, I will be reborn within a structure within a fly, right? Or if I am to be born as a chicken, I will be born in such a place, right? The foundation, the physical foundation can be present, and the maturing of that foundation can be after the consciousness appears within the physical fertilization process of the egg. The Bhava Rupa that we are talking, because after the fertilization process or the foundation of the fertilization is a mixture of the sperm and the egg, this creates a certain physical foundation for something to now spark. That spark can be consciousness. Why can't? Is there any sort of evidence to say that a consciousness has to arise at the moment the fertilization process starts? That is not what the commentaries say.
Bhante, this is the situation now. It's three Rupa Kalapas, right? Vastukaya and Bhava.
Okay.
Actually, it's caused by a karma. It's a karmaja rupa. So because it's karmaja rupa, it should have some sort of personality attached to it. Because whose karma is a karma of the person who is actually at the consciousness. Right?
Okay.
So what explain? That's why this is it's a very hard to sort of convince, because if you say that rebirth linking consciousness is appeared there, and immediately there should be three Rupa Kalapas, which is Bhava, Kaya, and Vastu. Now, these three Kalapas created by karma. So, whose karma actually? So, there should be a person linking that karma, right? So, the consciousness should have, the rebirth linking consciousness should have that identity. Otherwise, it's not going to be a karmaja rupa. It's just a neutral rupa.
I want to be within the foundation. I mean, I feel like being within the foundation, but I'm going to double check. We'll have a conversation about it next week.
Yeah.
Now I feel like not canceling next week. Maybe the Sutta class is not there. Maybe we can for next week. You can have it on Tuesday if you like. but
Oh, how about doing it Tuesday actually, Bhante?
Yeah. Maybe we can do it on Tuesday, and you all can go on.
Yeah.
Okay. The premise by which I stand currently, which can change, right, by the course of next week, is the fact that the person that we are is not wholly dependent. The way that we look or the certain physical features are not wholly dependent on just karma. Karma sets a vibration for which that development can happen. For example, if I am fair, or if I am dark, or whatever color that I am, it is not wholly because of karma. It can also be the parents that I am born to, right? We cannot say, now we know that, this sort of old school sort of beliefs are there. You are born into, certain sort of, colors or whatnot because of karma. But this is not supported entirely. This is not supported entirely. The maturation of physical phenomena, karma has a part that it plays on it. The maturation, the continuation of the physical phenomena. But can we say that the creation of physical phenomena is entirely because of that karma? I don't believe that. Because for that phenomena, for that energy to arise itself, for us to, because we are born in a position suitable to the energy, suitable to the karma, suitable to the way that we die by. Whether we need, or whether it is at the moment of conception itself that consciousness arises, I don't believe that the X and the Y chromosome being there as a foundation, in its primary level, is a good argument to say, okay, because of this, consciousness must be there. Because the Vattu Bhava Rupas can also play the role of continuation or supporting the physical base to mature. Because if we take Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, and then the derived matters that arise through Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, it plays a function of molding, continuation, and also being inflicted by causes of the environment. Just like, for example, Tejo affects the way that the eye base matures or the ear base matures. But why don't we do this, right? Because let me consult the high authorities.
And Bhante,
yeah.
Also, I feel like all of us, I mean, we have different features and, different mentalities. All that comes with partly karma, and then you inherit some things from your parents and stuff like that. How do you, we have to take all that into consideration, isn't it? To whom we are born.
We absolutely are. And I think now the doctors can do a bit of research and come next week. If we study gender identity, right? I don't know too much about it, but I had a discussion with our friend Miri about gender identity. And gender identity, where now when we speak about trans persons, people who do not feel as if they are the right gender, right? There is a biological imbalance which makes them feel it. It's not a mental, it's not something that is just mental, that they feel it. Like, for example, I feel like eating McDonald's today. It's not something like that.
Yes.
Right? And I think although the physical framework or the physical foundation in place could be for a male, or a physical foundation in place could be for a female, then the mind or the chemical that allows you to now feel as if you're not a male or you're not a female, I think that can also be taken into account to sort of understand this dynamic a little bit more, right? So why don't we do our research? I will also consult the high authorities, right? And we can have a discussion about it next week. Yeah? Shall we?
Yes. Yes, Bhante.
Because when it comes to, especially with the current studies that we have, with what we know in the world, modern science, with trans people, trans persons, that is also something that we have to take into account in this way, because the physical base is not just the only thing that you would say I am male or female, just because you are born into or you have the foundation of that particular sex, right? So let's do a bit more research and come back, yeah, next week, Tuesday at 7. Is that okay with everyone? Tuesday at 7.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm fine.
Anyone else? So then you can have your holiday outings and come back. Yeah. All right. Shall we go back to, so is the base and the door understood then?
Yeah.
The base and the door. Okay. Coming back to 100 and here the
245.
145. 100 pages afterwards. Okay.
Yes. Those are the bases. Now we go to doors.
All right. Now, Dwara. The 5 sensitive material phenomena are doors of cognition. That is, media for consciousness and mental factors to counter their objects. Bodily and vocal intimation are doors of action. That is, channels for bodily and verbal deeds. Right? That is understood. The doors by which data is received and the doors by which communication happens, right? To communicate through vocal and bodily intimation, faculties, indriya. The sensitivities are so called because they exercise a controlling power, indra, in their respective spheres. Each of these controls the coexistent material phenomena in exercising its specific function, such as seeing, hearing, etc. Right? The sex faculty controls the manifestation of masculine and feminine features and traits. The life faculty controls the coexistent types of matter, as a pilot controls a ship. Right? Now, the point here is the first three sentences, right? The sensitivities are so-called because they exercise a controlling power in their respective spheres. What does that mean? Now, when an I process is going on, the I data is that which is interacted with. That function becomes predominant over the rest. Afterwards, if it's I and then hearing something or smelling something, and now it switches to the other one. Hence, Indriya, Chakku Indriya, Sota Indriya, Gana Indriya, Jivha Indriya. This becomes the predominant function at that moment because it has the ability to become the predominant function. Take a Chittaviti. We have the Chakkudvara Chittaviti, Sota, Gana, Jivva, Kaya, Manadvara Chittaviti. Right? These are Indriyas. Now see how the Chakku, when the Chakku arises, now this takes predominance over the whole consciousness. Why? How do we know this? Because the Chakkudvara Chittaviti arises at that moment. Hence, it is called an Indriya. Understood? Yeah? Okay. Any questions? No questions? Yes, Padma.
Yeah. Why is the heart base not called a faculty?
Because the heart base is not called a faculty because the heart base only performs a function of a base, not an Indriya.
Right.
The functions are very important to understand in this part. Right? The heart base is the physical support for the mind, the physical base for the mind to arise.
All right.
We can't even use the word support if correctly articulated. It is the physical base for the mind to arise.
Okay. All right.
Right?
Thank you.
That is why it is not an Indriya.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Right. Okay. Damsi, did you have to say something?
No.
Okay.
No.
Gross, proximate, and impinging material phenomena. Gross, proximate, and impinging material phenomena. These three terms are used here in a technical sense, which should not be confused with their ordinary connotations. They are restricted in application to the material phenomena that are instrumental in the genesis of sense consciousness, that are instrumental in the genesis of the material, instrumental in the genesis of sense consciousness, and imply nothing about the relative size or nearness of the object. These phenomena are 12-fold. The 5 sensitive organs and the 7 objective data, the tangible base being reckoned as threefold because it consists of 3 great essentials. Those material phenomena which do not directly contribute to the arising of sense consciousness are called subtle, distant, and non-impinging. Again, regardless of their size or distance. Right? Again, regardless of their size or distance. Right? Size or distance. If you go to the earlier page, the 12 kinds comprising the 5 sensitive organs and 7 sense objects are gross, proximate, and impinging material phenomena. The rest are subtle, distant, and non-impinging. Right? The rest are subtle, distant, and non-impinging. Right? Other than those 6, 5, and 7, the rest are subtle, distant, and non-impinging. Right? These 3 terms are used here in a technical sense which should not be confused with their ordinary connotations. They are restricted in application to the material phenomena that are instrumental in the genesis of consciousness, sense consciousness, and imply nothing about the relative size or nearness of the object. These phenomena are 12-fold. The 5 sensitive organs and the 7 objective data. The tangible base being reckoned as threefold because it consists of the 3 great essentials. What that means is that category of consciousness, because it implies, right? Because it implies only to the gaining, receiving of the object, right? Which allows for the receiving, the gaining of the object, and not to the relative details of what the object might be. So constricted to the material phenomena and not to the mental understanding gained through perception afterwards. That is irrelevant. The material phenomena here then related to as gross, proximate, and impinging material phenomena impinge upon the faculties here, allowing that data to be perceived and nothing else. Right? And nothing else. It is as if, I think in neuroscience, they explain why corona is so difficult for us, right? One specific biological, rather a chemical reason they say is because the brain is used to, usually, it is an automatic process where the timeline is determined. Here, we can't determine a timeline because it is dragging on. Hence, this is something that causes extra stress to the brain, because usually it would be an automatic process that the timeline would be assumed. When it drags on, that function of assuming now when is it going to end, that question, when is it going to end, is a stressful factor to the biology that we usually are used to. In a similar manner, here, the perception which gives us an understanding about, here it says near or far or big or small, that is determined by other factors of the mind, not by the physical factors that we are speaking of here. Right? That understanding is not something which arises at that moment. It is only the form that arises with regard to these bases that we are talking about. Right? Now, shall we go through that again? Gross, proximate, and impinging material phenomena. These three terms are used here in a technical sense, which should not be confused with their ordinary connotations. They are restricted in the application to the material phenomena that are instrumental in the genesis of sense consciousness. They are instrumental in the arising of sense consciousness. For example, although something is of a specific color, if you are colorblind, right, you will perceive it in a different way than what its color truly might be. Right? What its color truly might be. And imply nothing about the relative size or nearness of the object. It implies nothing because, see, proximate. Usually, proximate would be used in a way. Remember the way that we've been using proximate with regards to the consciousnesses that arise? That is not the way that this is used here. The word is used here. Right? It's relating to wholly just the material phenomena, which forms the base for the genesis of, for the arising of sense consciousness after or when the potential is created, not potential, the foundation, I'm sorry, not potential, foundation for that sense consciousness is created. Right? But when we speak about that relativity, it is almost, we say that it arises almost at the same time, right? Where the eye, the light, and then the eye consciousness arising. When that process, when the manodvara vajana is applied, we say that when the eye consciousness or the light, the foundation for eye consciousness is present, there now data is gathered, right? But the physical representation traveling through light arises, giving or creating the potential, foundation for that consciousness to arise. Remember, what is required for eye consciousness to arise, for Rupa to be seen? Eye consciousness, mansikara, light, and the object. These four, right? Remember? Right? This is now the foundation. When these four are present, now the Rupa is gathered. Right? Now the Rupa is gathered. Darkness is not a arammana, is anarammana. Darkness is not cognized. Why? No light. That is, when there is no light, a Rupa is not cognized by the idol. Right? The perception now tells us it's dark. Do you understand that point? When there is no light, the basis for a Rupa to be gathered is now not there. When there is no light, the perception, however, knows it's dark. Although the perception might know that it is dark, at the absence of light doesn't make darkness an object. But that is now the perception. Example, you're in a dark room or you have closed your eyes. When you close your eyes, and if you focus on your ears, the sound, now almost a sense of predominance coming over. Now being able to hear more than you often would have heard. Right? In the same manner now, even if your eyes are open in the dark, you are hearing more. The predominance and the absence. So here then the discussion in the commentaries goes on. What goes on is the perception is what tells us it is dark, not the eyes. The eyes, because of the lack of light, does not see Rupa. The absence of Rupa is perceived by the mind. Any questions? We'll think about it. Now, these phenomena are 12-fold. The 5 sensitive organs and the 7 objective data, the 5 sensitive organs and the 7 objective data, the tangible base being reckoned as 3-fold because it consists of 3 great essentials. Right? Think about it. If you have a question, come back next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Okay? Clung to, upadina. The 18 kinds of matter born of karma are known as clung to because they have been acquired as the fruits of karma, motivated by craving and wrong view. Matter produced by causes other than karma is known as not clung to. Matter produced by causes other than karma is known as not clung to. Generally, however, in a less technical sense, all organic matter in the body is referred to as clung to, while inorganic matter is spoken of as not clung to. Inorganic matter is spoken of as not clung to. It should be noted that unlike the other pairs of terms used for the purpose of classification, the pair clung to and not clung to does not establish a mutually exclusive dichotomy. For 9 kinds, dichotomy. For 9 kinds of material phenomena born of karma can also originate. For 9 kinds of material phenomena born of karma can also originate from other causes, right? See para 17. Let's go to para 17. Page number 253. 253. Are we there? Therein, life and the 8 inseparable material phenomena, together with the I, are called the I decad. Similarly, by joining the former 9 together with the year and so forth, the year decad, the nose decad, the tongue decad, body, female, male, heart base should respectively be formed. Inseparable material phenomena together with life are called the vital nonad. These 9 groups originate from Kamma. Right? These 9 groups originate from Kamma. Right? Originate from Kamma. Emphasis on the word originate. Right? Originate. Coming back. Right? We'll go through that later on when we have gone through the different sets. What is up? Page, please. Ah, yes, here it is. 245. Right? The 18 kinds of matter born of Kamma are known as clung to because they have been acquired as the fruits of Kamma, motivated by craving and wrong view. Matter produced by causes other than Kamma is known as not clung to. Generally, however, in a less technical sense, all organic matter in the body is referred to as clung to, while inorganic matter is spoken of as not clung to. Right? As inorganic matter is referred to as not clung to. Now, generally, however, in a less technical sense, all organic matter in the body is referred to as clung to. Do we remember what we just read? Right? How the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the heart base decads are those that originate because of Kamma. Right? Hence clung to. Hence clung to. Right? Then, while inorganic matter is spoken of as not clung to. It should be noted that unlike other pairs of terms used for the purpose of classification, the pair clung to and not clung to does not establish a mutually exclusive dichotomy. For 9 kinds of material phenomena born of Kamma can also originate from other causes. Right? So it is setting another possibility, right? That it can also arise because of other causes. Now, do we have time? Yes. Eye and ear as not reaching their object. According to the Abhidhamma, the eye and ear are regarded as sense organs that do not reach or touch their respective objects. For the eye or ear to serve as a base for consciousness, the objects must be non-contagious. In contrast, I don't know what non-contagious is. It's like contagious. Not contagious, not adjoining along a boundary or consisting of parts that adjoin a non-contiguous college campus. These parcels on non-contiguous land.
It's not touching, Bhante, is it?
Not touching. Right. Not touching. Yeah. Not connected, not touching. Yeah. Its objects must be non-contagious. In contrast, the other 3 sense organs, it is held, directly touch their objects. That is clear. We've discussed this. Material phenomena that take objects. The Pali expression gochara gahika is used figuratively to indicate that the 5 sense organs serve as the basis for the consciousnesses that arise with their support. But the sense organs, being matter, cannot literally apprehend objects. Rather, it is a sense consciousness based on them that actually cognize the objects. That actually cognize the objects. Right? That actually cognize the objects. Is that clear? Right? Now if we are to take a chemical formation, that chemical formation with the identity that chemical formation has, that identity is perceived through the mind. But the chemical formation is physical. Right? The chemical formation is that which is physical. The knowing of that formation is the mind. Right? The knowing of that formation is the mind. Now, material phenomena that are inseparable. The four great essentials and four derivatives, color, smell, taste, and nutritive essence, are known as inseparable matter, Aviniboga Rupa, because they are always bound together and are present in all material objects from the simplest to the most complex. Because they are always bound together and are present in all material objects from the simplest to the most complex. The other types of material phenomena may be present or not, and are thus regarded as separable. A material group, kalapa, that consists solely of these 8 elements is known as a pure octave, Suddhastaka, or a group with nutritive essence as a Ojattamaka. Right? Now, material phenomena that are inseparable. The 4 derivatives, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, the 4 great essentials, the 4 derivatives. Color, smell, taste, and nutritive essence. These are qualities that exist together and form the foundation. The foundation is mutually conditioned by one another, allowing that form to be what we call a Suddhashtaka, right? A Suddhashtaka, a group with nutritive essence as its 8, right? Oja Attamaka, right? Oja Atta, it's Ojattamaka, Oja and Attamaka, right? Is that understood? Now that is a Suddhastaka. We'll be going into that in time to come, right? Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja. Right? Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja. These are qualities which stick together and form what they refer to as a pure octad. Right? Meaning 8. Pure 8. Right? We'll be discussing it. We can discuss it next week. Right? Go through what we have read. The clung to, I think, the gross, proximate, and impinging. Right? The gross, proximate, and impinging. Material phenomena that take objects. Right? Go through it. And also the rebirth linking we will discuss next week, right? If you have any questions, write them down, discuss as a group, and then we'll come together and discuss next week, 7 o'clock, Tuesday. All right?
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante, last question. Can you explain in the next class the importance of learning these details of Rupa and Rupa Vibhanga? And I saw actually in the inside meditation, in one stage, you have to do something called Rupa Saptaka concentration. That means you had to review this, and you have to see these things using your manasikara, and identify these separately in order to identify the or facilitate to realize Trilakkhana. And so can you give us a little bit of information on this also? Yeah. Because some people ask why we have to study these things, that details. Is it important? And things like that. I think it's important. So probably give us some bit of information why these are so important.
Yeah. Sure. Next week.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right then. Good night.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good night.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
And
thank you. Good night, Bhante.
Good night.
Everyone Saranai Bhante.